Hello, fellow fantasy sports fans. I am Dr. Dan Ratner, and we are here on MFSN The Hubs for our Q&A, all things sports. But we're probably going to focus mostly on baseball because it is definitely baseball season. It is the basketball playoffs, and I have a story for you. I can't believe this happened. This is the first all time for me. So we're going to lead off with this. I woke up in my week prepping for the playoffs of basketball, and I had James Harden out, and I had Karl Anthony Towns mostly out, and I had the big guy from the Pacers who leads the league in block shots, and I'm not even remembering who it did. Miles Turner. Why was it blanking on that? Top three players. Well, I had Chris Paul, so I three out of my four top players out, and I'm like, well, that's all right. This is a tune-up. We'll be okay. Everybody's starting to get healthy. I put in all my waiver claims. I wake up the next morning and I'm like, why am I competing for fifth place? What happened? It was the playoffs last week. I cannot believe it. This happens even to fantasy experts. I was playing in the playoffs, did not even realize I was competing. I was like, I don't care about this week. This is a tune-up. My place is set. Well, it turns out my season is over because I wasn't paying enough attention. So let that be a lesson to all of you. All right. I'll win fifth place, though. Even so, I was destined to lose that playoff matchup because 3 out of my 4 guys went down exactly during playoff time. So it was just kind of bad luck. Now, let's turn to baseball. In my league, we have one of our first trades, and this will also be another first. It's the first time I ever didn't realize I was in the playoffs, and it is also the first time that I'm announcing a trade in my league for the first time right on national television. International television. Okay, so let's look at it. Let's pull the screen up, guys. We have a trade between Vlad to the Bone, Casey Scheinvold, one of our own, trading with Cuban Kings, a man who goes by the name Miguel because his parents named him Miguel. We have Bobby Witt Jr. This is a keeper league, by the way. You have to know that. Bobby Witt Jr., Kansas City shortstop, being traded for Mackenzie Gore. These two are very high prospects, each 19% owned. Very interesting trade. And you know what? I can't help but think that I had something to do with this trade because I was trying to trade Miguel pitching, and I was telling him, listen, man, you need some pitching. I was trying to trade him Zach Gallen because I needed a closer. So that brings me to my next point, closers. Who out there hates closers? We all hate closers. If you play fantasy baseball, you hate closers. I know you do. And the reason is because they torture us. Here's what happened to me. I was like, you know what? I'm not worrying about closers this year. I'm going to draft 3 closers early. It's not going to be a problem. I draft Rbis Chapman, and it turns out the Yankees can't win a game. The Yankees cannot win a game. So far, Rbis Chapman has gotten me 1 measly save. Or is it 2? I'll check. But I think 1. Another one that I drafted Richard Rodriguez of the Pittsburgh Pirates. I drafted him because he has no competition in that bullpen. Yes, the Pirates are terrible, but he has no competition in that bullpen, and he's actually a really good pitcher. So at least until the trade deadline coming up in August, it's not coming up. What am I saying? It's like the summer's already over. No. When it's going to be the trade deadline, yes, he might get dealt, and then who knows who will take over for him. But a bird in hand is the one you want when it comes to fantasy sports, generally speaking. So I'm fine with that. My third one, I lingered on that button. I wasn't sure who to press, and I picked Trevor Rosenthal. Trevor Rosenthal got injured. I think it was like a millisecond later. I'm sure, because that's the way things go with closers. A millisecond later, he gets injured. Then, a cascade of events. One of my arch rivals, Brad, had drafted Jake Dykman. I was like, why are you drafting Jake Dykman? Come on. He's my handcuff. And for those of you out there who don't know, a handcuff is the backup player to somebody that you have on your team, or somebody else's backup for that matter, and you're just waiting for them to gain value. So Brad took Jake Dykman, and I was very upset about that. Not very, but I was like, eh. But then when Trevor Rosenthal went down, I was even more upset. And then it got even worse. After that, Jake Dykman was doing terribly. So I picked up a different Oakland reliever. But I picked up the wrong one. And it ended up that Lou Trevino is now getting saves on my arch rival's team, my cousin Andrew, the Fantasy Pros expert who has been on our show many times before. I didn't want him to benefit from it. So meanwhile, I've been chasing closers ever since. And this is why I went to Miguel, trying to get Will Smith from him. And Miguel, if you're out there watching, I think that you can see my suffering and you owe me Will Smith. I don't know why the world works that way, but that's just the way it is. So I do want to talk closers with you guys. And if you have questions about them, they're like the running backs in the NFL when it comes to fantasy sports. You have to pay attention all the time. And this is one of the reasons why closers drive me crazy. Even so, plenty of time. I have lots of backup guys. I have scooped up Rafael Dolis. I picked him up because there was an injury to several of the Toronto closers. First, Kirby Yates, then Jordan Romano, then what's his name? Merriweather. Not remembering his first name. Doesn't matter. Merriweather, even if you don't only remember his last name, Merriweather could have still gotten you saves. But now Dolis, I don't know how long these injuries are for. They're not for very long, I don't think, so he's not super valuable. But I'm going to look at my team and see how it's going. We've got Chris Taylor and Kyle Seager are combined 0 for 6 today. Oh, wait, we've got an 0 for 9 going today. Wow. The hits just keep on coming. No, actually, they don't. The hits aren't coming at all. Let me show you something. I'm going to go on a little rant against Tony La Russa, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm in a little bit of a salty mood today, I guess, but it's fun. Fun to rant and rave. Okay, so we're looking at my hitting day yesterday. Not particularly good. It was not a good hitting day. But I'm going to show you where it really got bad. Okay. Does everyone notice Lucas Giolito? Let's take a look at his day yesterday. 1 inning pitched, a 63 ERA. 63. If you have a 27 ERA, it means you allowed 3 runs in an inning. So this means he allowed 7 runs. 7 runs. Actually, he allowed 8. 1 was unearned. Thank God. Had to stop somewhere. And he had 10 hits or walks in that 1 inning pitch. It's a bit misleading because 2 of those hits and walks were actually in the 2nd inning when he pitched 0 innings. Now, am I mad at Lucas Giolito? No. Players have their bad days. He is one of my aces. He completely kicks ass, generally speaking. What is Tony La Russa doing leaving the guy in? You can't leave a guy in like that. This could actually really get in the way of a player's confidence. A guy like Lucas Giolito is going to be fine. But a younger player, you let that happen, Tony La Russa should know better. He is a manager who's been around for a long time. He should know better than this. Meanwhile, Lucas Giolito didn't even have the worst day pitching. Let's take a look at what happened to Joe Ross. Now, Joe Ross is not an ace, so if you were streaming him, my condolences to you. But we're going to look at what happened here. Joe Ross. Let's take a look at your numbers. Now, I'm just going to look at his numbers for the season now. They look not so good. But actually, the Washington pitcher wasn't so bad going into his last game. Now, let's take a look at what happened. No, wait, I want to see the game log. Here we go. Here's the game log. Loading very slowly. Okay. Well, actually, I don't know which one was worse. Was Lucas Giolito's worse or Ross? Joe Ross got through 4.1 innings. He only had 8 hits and 3 walks. So Giolito actually had only 1 less in 1 inning. But Joe Ross did allow 10 earned runs. And he let off 4 dingers. But you know what? I heard that Joe Ross's day was actually worse in some leagues than Giolito. Having looked at it, I would have rather had Joe Ross's day than Giolito. It's not by much, but at least he had 5 strikeouts in 4 innings. Giolito had 0 strikeouts. These things are disastrous. But and it also, I will say, that manager not as much at fault. You know, Giolito just didn't have it. It was very clear. You take your ace out. You protect him. Now let's look at his numbers. Giolito on the season. Okay. Giolito on the season. And keep in mind, he pitched a complete gem of a game the other day. And even with that gem, look at his numbers now. 5.79 ERA, 1.29 whip. The 1.29 whip shows how good he's been. He had a 10 whip. I don't know if you guys understand what that means. I mean, for people out there who don't know what that means, usually in a game where, let's say you pitch 7 innings and you have an okay day, you would allow about maybe 10 hits or walks in 7 innings. He did it in 1 inning. 1. But it is, again, a bit misleading because 2 of them came after. So I'm done with my rant against Tony La Russa. Never liked the guy much anyway. I don't know. He just seems to have an edge to him. But don't let that stop you from coming on our show, Tony. I'd love to see you sometime. So let's talk about baseball. One thing I love about baseball, and I play rotisserie. I play head-to-head too, but I like rotisserie more. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you, well, here's the thing. If you're doing head-to-head, and let's say you have a really bad week, this is an advantage of head-to-head. If you have a really bad week, like I did last week, actually, Casey mopped the floor with me for various reasons. Most of them were completely unfair. No, I'm kidding. He actually just demolished me to fair and square. But in head-to-head, you can, if you've got a good team, you can just have a bad week, and then you just rebound from it. The great thing about rotisserie is you're building over time. One thing I love to do, I used to do this all the time when I had more time on my hands, is I would stare at the full standings. And come on. No, I don't want live standings. Thank you. If you look at this, you can look at any category and see where you rank. Let's see where Jobu's Rum, my team, is shaken down. In runs, we got 84 runs. We're in 4th place. We're only 4 or 5 back from the ones that we have to catch, but we're only 4 or 5 ahead of the ones behind us. So as the season goes, this is going to stretch out, and you'll understand where your leads are comfortable or not. Looking at home runs, I'm down at 20. I've had a bad couple of days. Before that, I was up at, probably 4th or something like that. So now I've fallen behind the McEnroes. Cuban Kings, Miguel, who we talked about before. Jim the Gent, that's my cousin Andrew, my arch rival. He's batting .227, and I am not sorry about that. But I'm sure that won't keep up. Let's see about RBIs. Okay, now I'm 3rd in RBIs, and it's interesting. It hasn't really felt like that. Sometimes when you're playing in a season, it doesn't feel like you're doing that well, and a lot of it's going to be your mindset. But if you look at my numbers overall, they stack up with most teams until you get, well, let's look at average to see where I stack up there. Okay, I'm in 2nd. This is interesting. The highest average in the league is 268. Baseball has changed. People are swinging for the fences so much that there are huge strikeout pitchers, and averages have really plummeted quite a bit. A 268 team average used to be, that would be maybe middle of the pack at best. Might be a little bit below when I was growing up. Probably middle of the pack. No, I'd say in the 270s at least you needed to be middle of the pack. So it's really interesting to see these low batting averages. And meanwhile, you can see the competition's very bunched up. Somebody on Ross's team just got out. You just saw a little red flash. That was Ross's team, and somebody got out. If he got a hit, it would have turned green. But see how bunched up they are? This is going to be important as the season goes on. If they stay, if our teams stay this bunched up, we're going to have to, jockey for position to figure out how we might add somebody who's a great batting average guy to see if we can help out. Now, I've got a good batting average team, so I'm pretty optimistic I'm going to finish pretty high. Stolen bases is where I've been hurting. How does Andrew have 18 stolen bases? 18 stolen bases. I have 5. But if you look, if I get 4 stolen bases, I'm going to jump up all the way to 5th place. And that's how you gain points. I'm going to go from 10th place all the way to 5th. That's 5 points that would be added to my total. My total right now, 67. I'd go up to 72. Let's see where that would put me. And this is really what you've got to do if you want to win. I would jump up to 5th place, close to 4th. But I'm not particularly concerned I'm going to get back to the pitching numbers, but I'm going to show you why I'm not particularly concerned. First of all, I was 4.5 points higher before Lucas Giolito left the mound, or took the mound. But if you look here, and this is something you need to look at, I'm 30 behind in innings pitched. A lot of these teams have pitched a lot more innings than me. Let me show you something else. I want to just talk about how you assess how you're doing. I'm going to load a different screen here. It might be tricky for our technical side of things. It might be a bit blurry, so I'm going to zoom in while we're looking at this. Zoom in so you can see, people. Okay. Now, when we look here, we can go to, where is that? If you go to your own team, or really any team, you can go to League Stats, and this is a live look at how things are going. And what you can see here is all the innings pitched. I have 100.2 innings pitched, and it is the lowest in the league. What that means is my counting numbers are going to go up. If I have a good enough team, then we're going to start to get places where, like look in wins. I'm at 6 wins, but I have less innings. So I can catch all these people that are ahead potentially. Now, it's iffy whether I'll catch Jim the Gent or Mookie Crisp. Am I going to catch, I'm thinking about it, at 120 innings, or Mazzoni's Rockers? That's Lauren, by the way, at 127. All things being average? Yes. I would think so. Ross the Boss has weighed in. He says, Vlad to the Bone made a trade. Tell us about it. Ross, you missed the beginning of the broadcast, my friend. I did talk about it. But for review, he dealt Mackenzie Gore, who was hugely high on my list for Bobby Witt Jr., the shortstop. Miguel needed pitching, and Casey loves a young shortstop hitter. He just can't resist. If he could have 25 of them, he would. I'm right, Casey. Thank you, sir. Ross is saying that my team looks great. I think they really do. The one thing that's missing is that third closer, which I had, but now I don't. I did pick up, though, I said Rafael Dolis. I also picked up Stephen Creighton, who actually I believe Ross drafted, but the closer carousel goes on and on and on. Soria took that job. I thought he would. Then he got injured. Now Creighton's in the mix. It's unclear who's gonna be there now, but I'm hoping it's Creighton because I really need that third closer, and I'll show you why. Let's look at the saves column. All right, in saves, Joe Bouzram with 2 saves on the season. That's right, because Aroldis Chapman has given me 1 save. Richard Rodriguez, 1 save, and all the way at the top, 16 saves for Play Baseball 2021. Shout out to you, Matt Singer, and Vlad to the Bone, Casey Scheinfold, with 16. But I'm not that worried. There's time to address this. There's 2 teams with 3. There's 1 with 4. There's 2 with 5. And there's 1 with 6. Aroldis Chapman could have a good week, and I could actually be all the way up to 5th on that list. And you're not going to be great in every category, but it's early in the season. I could still end up 1st in the league in saves. You never know. I mean, if Dolis keeps that job and Creighton does, then we're fine. Let's see. Who is on your wish list that is actually playing? Well, that's an interesting question. Who's on my wish list that's actually playing? Well, do you mean who is on my team that's actually playing? I'm not sure what that question means, Ross. This is like a Buddhist mystery. I'm going to move to your next question, and then you come back to me about that. Were you upset about the Reds taking 2 out of 3 over the weekend? I'll tell you something. My primary experience of the Reds taking 2 out of 3 from my Cleveland Indians, by the way, I am wearing the jersey. Here it is. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes. I just did a Willie Mays Hayes. I was not particularly upset about it. Fantasy sports really takes off the edge because you can have a great time playing fantasy sports, even while your team might not be doing that well. The Indians also, they cut their payroll so much, and they're a great team. They're such a well-managed team, but they cut payroll. I got to say, if you're an owner of a team and you trade your star player, Francisco Lindor, you can't expect the fans to stay as involved. eventually you got to pay some of your guys. So I wasn't that upset. I don't see the Indians going that far this year. Now they could. They've got Shane Bieber at the top of their pitching lineup. So that's not the right word. What am I talking about? I got distracted by something. Pitching staff. That's the word I was looking for. Word finding issues here today. Okay, Ross clarified. Who am I looking to trade for? Great question. Ross, you know how much I love to trade. Well, let's take a look. Let's see who's at the top of my list. Now, I was talking before. Really, one of the tops of my list is going to be closers. It's all about your need. I mean, I have guys that I would love to trade for. But if we look at closers, wow, look at Corbin Burns. Am I glad I picked him to be 10th on my list? I was like, I don't know who to pick to be 10th. I'm going to go out on a limb with Corbin Burns. He's got a lot of high upside. Look at what this guy is doing. It's unbelievable. A .22 whip in 18 innings. Now, just to put that in perspective, that means he is allowing one hit or walk about every 5 innings. Did you hear that? One hit or walk every 5 innings. I have a question. Is Bieber going to be the Cy Young? Very possible. But look, Corbin Burns, he also could be. This is going to be a tight race. Of course, there is NL and AL. So Corbin Burns could be the NL. I think Bieber has a very good chance at it. I'm upset I didn't draft Jake McGee. I had him. So this is the kind of player that I'd actually want to trade for. So there's different trade targets. I mean, you could have a guy like Xander Bogaerts who I can't remember if you traded for him or you traded him away. I'm pretty sure you traded him away to get Mookie Betts. And you traded Corbin Burnson from Major League. That's right. Corbin Burns and Corbin Burnson, not to be confused. Roger Dorn would not be at the top of the pitchers list. But looking here, now Ross did a great job scooping up Yimi Garcia. I got to say something. I'm on a real rant today about certain people and things. It's not like me either because I'm pretty happy-go-lucky most of the time. But every once in a while, I really like to skewer some people. So let's do it. One of the things that drives me crazy about closers is not just what happens with closers. It's the coverage of closers. All of you experts out there, and I'm not going to include myself in this yet because I haven't blown this stuff enough to be in this group. And I also do something different than a lot of the rest of you out there. If I make a mistake, I'm going to say it. What happens is you go to a closer site, you look at the depth chart, you go to the Marlins. Beginning of the season, was Yimi Garcia on their depth chart? No, he was not. He's closing now. It happens all the time. There's this one organization, and I actually really potentially could love this organization. It's Closer Monkey. Closer Monkey is a website that tracks religiously nothing but closers. They could be so useful. And yet, not only are they wrong a lot of the time, they never acknowledge it. It's complete gaslighting. And they're like, oh, nope, yep, just like we said, this guy's the closer. I'm like, this guy wasn't even third on your depth chart. You never tell me anything. Meanwhile, you can't tell people about it the next morning. The next morning doesn't help me. Tell me the night before. I wake up and it's like, new closer in Toronto. And I'm like, yeah, thanks for that. And meanwhile, I look and somebody had better intel. If you are a site like Closer Monkey, you got to get it right or I'm going to go somewhere else. And in fact, that's exactly what I'm going to do. But I haven't found out which site is good. So if you guys have suggestions out there, let me know what's your favorite site for tracking closers. If you look at depth charts and ESPN and all these other ones, they're always different. The main thing that I do is I look to see who is pitching the 8th inning. I'll give you an example. Will Smith is the closer for Atlanta. Many of the depth charts show Chris Martin's number 2, but he's injured right now. And they haven't updated it. So they're just, I don't know what they think that we're going to do. We need this information, people. We take this game seriously. What's wrong with you? So You got to tell us who's second in the depth chart. I was looking. It looked like Tyler Matzik was number 2 on most depth charts. I scoop him up, and I'm like, you know what? I don't know about this. AJ Minter, he was a closer before, and I scooped him up too. I've since cut Minter because I needed to add Crichton and Dolis. I had to make room somehow. But I will say this. I'm not sure if I made the right choice between Matzik and Minter because Minter is the guy who's pitching the 8th inning. Generally speaking, I go with the guy who's pitching the 8th inning. We have a comment/question. Yankees are in last. Think they will stay there. I don't, but let's look at the standings. Let's look at Major League Baseball standings, and let's talk about some real baseball here for a little bit. Wow, that's loading very slowly. Okay. Oh, can he do it again? They're saying about Carlos Rodon. Can he throw another no-hitter? He almost threw a perfect game. That was extremely, obviously it's always impressive when anybody pitches a no-hitter, but what I'm thinking is that it's particularly impressive because Rodon really hasn't put it together before. Maybe he's putting it together now. Ross the Boss says, AJ Minter is awful. Ross, listen, have you tried pitching in the major leagues? It's not easy. In my time, it was hard. Back in the 1940s, when I was pitching in the majors, wait a minute, something's not right here. I think I had a dream. Okay, let's get to the real standings. Boston sitting at 11-6. They have barely any pitching staff. What is happening there? They must have beat Giolito so badly that they won 11 games. The Yankees 5-10. So really, they've started off badly. You know what? I'm going to go on another rant. Wow, it's a rant day today. This is kind of a rant. Teams are too fickle. They never should have fired Joe Girardi. I don't know why they would have done that. He led them to, I believe, multiple World Series, if I'm remembering correctly, which I easily might not be. But I know he at least won one with them. And he was great. I don't remember why they did it, but, you bring in Aaron Boone. I have nothing against Aaron Boone, except for the whole earn your stripes like garbage hazing ritual that the Yankees bring to the entire nation. So listen, as an Indians fan, I love to see the Yankees sitting at 5-10. I'm going to zoom in for you because I don't think that's clear enough for you. All right. So yeah, but they're not going to stay at 5-10. The Yankees are, listen, they may not be able to win the division, but not because they're in such a hole. It might just be because they're just not that good. But, man, they've lost 8 out of the last 10 games. With the pitching staff they have, I would be very surprised for this to stay that way. Now, we move to the Central. My Cleveland Indians at 8-7. They're always going to be in the mix. Them and Minnesota always find a way to be relevant. They just have quality organizations. The White Sox, though, are the team to watch. This is the team. I see. There's an observation about Joe Girardi. Joe and the front office hated each other. Let me tell you something, front office. Get over yourself. Joe Girardi is an excellent manager. And he may even be an excellent human being. But I have no idea because I know almost nothing about him. But he landed on his feet in Philadelphia. So it really is true. Let me ask this. Are the Yankees the most hated team in sports? Let's talk about that just for a second, and then we'll get back to the standings. Are the Yankees the most hated team in sports? Let's have some other nominations. I'm going to nominate the Dallas Cowboys. I don't understand how they're called America's team. And I'm sorry, Courtney, I didn't mean to diss the Dallas Cowboys, but it's not. It's the love that they get for seemingly no reason. I saw a stat, though, that about 25% of America roots for the Cowboys. 25%. How did this happen? So I used to think, they're not America's team. That's just a thing. That's just a marketing thing. It's a stat thing. It's crazy. I don't know what it is. They're the team I hate the most in the NFL because they win so much. And I don't know. Just never liked teams with silver in them for some reason. I don't know why. But they're like the awesome Detroit Lions. I'm just kidding. The Cowboys they're an amazing organization. Jerry Jones, not my favorite, but I can get into lots of teams. I don't actually hate the Cowboys so much anymore. There's various players get you to kind of like a team. Troy Aikman is one of those guys. I love Troy Aikman. When you listen to him announce games, he's a fantastic announcer. And people talk about Tony Romo, another Cowboy, another great announcer. Cowboy quarterbacks make for great announcers. Where are you, Roger Staubach? You should be announcing games. Okay, so let's go to the NBA. Most hated team in the NBA? I would think it would be either the Lakers or the Celtics because they've just, historically beaten on teams so much. As a Cleveland fan, I've come to really not like the Warriors so much, but historically they're, they haven't really asked for it. And the most hated team in hockey? I'm not a huge hockey fan, but I know enough to know it's got to be the Montreal Canadiens, I would think. And that's because they dominated things too. When teams dominate, they become hated. When you're at the top, it's tough. All right, back to the standings in baseball. We have the Seattle Mariners, 11 wins, 6 losses. The question is, do these stats actually mean something, or these standings, do they actually mean much? I don't know. I mean, look, I expect Houston to be better than this. Oakland is going to keep this up. Oakland always keeps it up. Talk of, 1991 Detroit Pistons, most hated team in history. Oh, my God. The Bad Boys? Yes. Good call. Oh, Joe Buck. Wait, are you saying that Joe Buck is the most hated announcer? Because, Joe, I'd be happy to have you on the show. But you do drive me crazy with your announcing. It's like shredded glass in my ears. I don't know why. It's just like there's something about it's like you're acting like an announcer. Just be an announcer. Wow, I'm on a rant today. This is exciting. Very fun. I bet you Ross is loving this. This is Ross style Q&A. Montreal for sure. Oh, and the Rangers, the New York Rangers, also hated in hockey. Yes, I agree. A win in April means just as much as it does in September. I'm just saying a small sample size doesn't necessarily mean the winning is going to continue. Let's look at some teams that we think are kind of fakers, for example. Like Baltimore, they're 7-9. Could they end up losing 100 games this year? I think they could. I don't. Oh, I see. Ross the Boss likes Joe Buck. Listen, I respect Joe Buck as an announcer. He's very good at his craft. He's worked hard at it. His father was a great announcer too. I don't know why. It always feels to me like he's rooting for the wrong team. The bitter Dr. Dan Radner. That's right. Yes, if you're a Cleveland fan, you're not going to like Joe Buck. Just like I didn't like Dick Enberg. He announced the drive. I was like, no, don't get excited about this. This is bad. I'm not saying it's objective. I'm just saying it's true. Okay. I think Oakland is going to do very well. They always do. I really admire that team. Now, you look here. Wow, Mets must have had a lot of postponed games. And actually, I know this for a fact they did because I have Francisco Lindor, formerly of the Cleveland Indians, now a New York Met. They were rained out for what felt like 15 straight games, which is an exaggeration to say the least. But they're 7-4. They've only played 11 games, whereas Atlanta has played 16. I expect Atlanta to be better than this, by the way. 7-9, they're going to be better. Washington's going to be better than this, too. I think you're going to see Philadelphia sink. Nothing against Philadelphia, but I'm just, looking at the teams. These numbers, it's too early. Too early for them to mean that much necessarily. Some of the numbers are going to mean something. The Reds at 9-6, I think that team is for real. I think that I would say that they are going to battle with Milwaukee for that division. Now, the Cubs could always sneak in there, but I just don't think it's their year. Now, look at the Dodgers. These numbers actually do mean something. We know how good the Dodgers are. They've got the best pitching rotation in baseball, and this is no accident. This is not like the Yankees are 5-10. That's a little bit of an accident. I mean, the Yankees have not been playing well, but they really should be, I'd say, 500. The Dodgers should be 13-4. There's nothing weird about this. Here's another quality organization, the San Francisco Giants. I can't believe they won 3 World Series in 5 years. And they did it with this pretty small market approach. I mean, they got certainly bigger than the Cleveland Indians teams do. But then you got San Diego too. The NL West is where it's at when it comes to baseball this year. I think all three of those teams could make the playoffs, but the Dodgers and I think the Padres will too. The Padres could underperform, though, because they are young. And the poor Rockies bringing up the rear. Arizona, I'm not sure what to make of them. I think they're a little too young. They're not going to do that well. Look at plucky little Pittsburgh at 7-9, despite having no payroll whatsoever. I root for teams like that. And by the way, Pittsburgh, if you haven't been, is a beautiful place. I had no idea. Growing up in Cleveland, we were like, oh, the Steelers, we hate Pittsburgh. It's such a terrible place. And then I went there and I was like, what is this golden paradise? What happened here? I love Cleveland more than any place on earth, but I don't care if other people don't love it. Stay away. It's fine. Love it here. Straight out of Larry the Cable Guy's way of thinking. Okay, now let's get back to fantasy. And by the way, let's note Ross's name. He says Jobu wants a refill. Now, Ross, I said this before. You may not have caught it the last time I was maybe 2 times ago on Q&A. The line is actually Jobu needs a refill, and I'll say it for you again. Hey, bartender, Jobu needs a refill. That's Harris for you. And I actually was thinking, I've got Major League on the mind. I almost introduced myself as Harry Doyle of Bob Uecker fame. Nobody's listening anyway. That's a Harry Doyle line, just so you know. I assume there are people listening because why would they not be? By the way, I forgot to mention, if you are listening and you're new, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below and we'll get back to you personally. All right, now we just moved away from that graphic and it was like a fake out. But now let's bring that back up because I actually want to look at it. We're going to get back to the question about who are the trade targets. So the first place I'm looking is simply trade targets in terms of relief pitching, just because that's what I need. This is a guy who could have been quite a find for people. Emmanuel Clace. Coming in, James Karinchak was the closer. He actually got into some trouble for some politically laced comments. And Emmanuel Clace, but listen, he lost his job because he wasn't pitching well. But look at Emmanuel Clace, pitching really well. 10 strikeouts in 7 innings. He's got 4 saves already. This is a guy that this happens all the time. You want a guy because you're like, oh, I could have had him. Now I have to have him. It's like, that's just that craving. So I'm not going to try to get Lou Trevino because you need to know who you're dealing with. Trying to get Lou Trevino from Andrew would be like getting gold from Fort Knox. It's just never going to happen. It's possible, but he drives a very hard bargain, which is to his credit, but also doesn't make him the trade partner I would necessarily go to. Whereas Casey, who owns Emmanuel Clace, I could actually get a deal done with Casey pretty easily. We have great rapport, as you've seen on the shows, but he's a trade guy. He loves to trade. So you need to know the players that you're playing with. Let's look at other targets, though, because this is not what Ross had in mind when he was asking for players to target. Ross says he's picking up somebody I mentioned now. All right, so when you're looking for trade targets, you're not really looking for the available players. You're looking for all players. And what I'm going to look at look, JD Martinez, this is not surprising. I mean, look, he's not going to bat 383. But the fact is, JD Martinez has been a monster. He had a down year last year, and last year was a third of a season. I did not take last year's numbers very seriously. So JD Martinez being this high, the second-ranked player overall, 15 runs, 6 homers, 20 RBIs. I think we found out why the Boston Red Sox have 11 wins. It might have something to do with JD Martinez. Meanwhile, I remember a debate with chat room MVP Sam Jacobowitz about Acuna Jr., Ronald Acuna Jr. versus Juan Soto. I was firmly in the Acuna camp, and take a look at what he's doing. He's a monster. Number 1 overall. 21 runs, 7 homers, 16 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, and a .419 average. You shouldn't have trusted the numbers last year at all. He had a decent year last year anyway, but I would have gone for him in a second. He would have been a target for me. In fact, he was a target for me earlier in the year, so I tried to get him, but he's very hard to get. Whit Merrifield is another great target because he's going to steal a lot of bases, and just look at those numbers. Delicious. We have a question. Cody Bellinger hasn't played in weeks. Good time to buy? Yes. I would say it is a good time to buy Cody Bellinger. From what I know, the injury is not super serious. Get these guys at a discount while you can. Now look at this, Mitch Henniger making a comeback. I wouldn't say he's a trade target, but he is a guy I have on my radar because you could get a guy like that and people could think, oh, he's not going to keep this up. Well, he has had really good numbers before. So it's certainly possible. In other news, Kyle Lewis is back tomorrow. Is it time to pick him up? Absolutely. Absolutely. You want to pick up big upside guys, but you don't want to have a roster full of only big upside guys. Look at what Tyler Naquin's doing. He's not going to keep this up, guys. Listen, this is a guy who he's ranked 20th overall, and would I recommend picking him up? I actually wouldn't. I just don't think he's going to keep it up. Let's see why. I'm going to take a quick look. What are Naquin's stats? Look, he's been around for a while. His OPS, he had a great OPS in his rookie year. He did a great job. 14 homers. He stole 6 bases. But his OPS has never been above 792 was his next best OPS. That was in 89 games. I mean, he doesn't stay healthy, and he just doesn't provide enough. Are you going to pick him up? Don't. That's fool's gold right there. Bo Bichette has done very well. Not my kind of trade guy to look for. I do like a guy like Ramon Laureano. Look, he's stealing a lot of bases. I was high on him, couple years ago. Tyler Naquin doesn't play every day is another knock on him, obviously. Rafael Devers. This is a guy that I would love to get, and his numbers aren't monstrously good yet. I have him in my league with Ross. My league with Ross. He's in both of my leagues. But this is Ross's league, and I have Devers in that league. Alex Verdugo, I was very high on. Oh, man, am I loving Jared Walsh. A lot of people thought this guy isn't going to be that good. And you know what? They got in my head for a couple of days there. I was like, uh-oh, did I make a mistake? No, I did not make a mistake. Jared Walsh. 10 runs, 4 homers, 13 RBIs, and a 341 average. This guy's for real. Ryan McMahon, that was a great pickup. We know about my Adam Eaton from the waiver wire, how Ross stole him from me. Well done, Ross. And Ty France, unfortunately, just got injured, but he's a good pickup. Nelson Cruz. This is a guy I would be after if I were you. He's always underrated because he's older and he only has the utility position. I actually went after him when I was trying to trade Zach Allen. I tried to trade him for Nelson Cruz and a closer. He didn't want to trade the closer. But the fact that he was willing to trade Nelson Cruz, which he said he was. Wait, did I just tell that to everybody in the league? Oh, no! Well, hopefully they're not watching. That's a funny thing for somebody who's on a show to say. Hopefully they're not watching. We're going to wrap up shortly, but look at Nick Solak. This guy's been a really good value, and I have a funny story about him. So I'm sitting in the draft of Ross's league, and I got somebody queued up, and I'm running out of time, and it doesn't usually happen because it's a very quick draft in that one, 30 seconds. And I was about to run out of time, ready to click my player, and I did run out of time. And who did it auto draft? Nick Solak. And he's been great, and I kept him. The fates delivered Nick Solak to me. Any questions before we wrap up? This has been a rapid-fire Q&A with like 150 rants from Dr. Dan Ratner today. Here's another guy I like, Jazz Chisholm Jr. I think he's a good pickup. But Freddie Freeman is underperforming. He's batting .232. Trade for him. I'm going to see if I can. But unfortunately, he's owned by Brad, and getting a player away from Brad is actually even harder than getting a player away from Andrew. So, that's probably not going to happen. Let's see. Who else? We'll wrap up on this. Bryce Harper has been underperforming, but he's hitting .327. That's nice to see. We didn't even do pitchers. Let me quickly do pitchers, and then we'll wrap up on that. Now, we already looked at closers, so I'm actually going to look at starters, but I'll move to all pitchers. Pitching targets. Wow, Carlos Rodon. His numbers look great, but he threw a no-hitter. So Jacob deGrom is a monster. .45 ERA, .70 whip. You're not going to get him for cheap, though. So who are you going to get for cheap? Well, a guy like Mark Mellinson would be a guy to go after. but his numbers are good. Oh, here's a guy. Do not go after this guy. Marcus Strowman. He has pitched great. But look at his innings pitched versus strikeouts. The guy has struck out 11 batters in 20 innings. That's not good. That's not going to keep up. It's not going to get the job done in today's baseball. Meanwhile, Shane Bieber, look at him. 29 innings pitched. He's been a workhorse and 48 strikeouts. Here's a great question. We'll finish up on this. Jay Bruce, a good pickup? Now, this is a knowing question, a little wink, wink. Jay Bruce just retired. So I think as we wrap up for today, we'll do a proper send-off of Jay Bruce. Jay Bruce, you have a long history in baseball and also in my fantasy leagues. One guy actually once got mad at me for picking up Jay Bruce when he was a rookie and trading him for a closer. Felt it wasn't fair because his value was, all over the place. Well, that's the case with rookies. So scoop up the hot rookie. But Jay Bruce, you were a monster, especially against right-handers. I used to play you just against right-handers only, and you would destroy everybody, and you were a cheap pickup with that. But as a real baseball player, you were great. You even played a pivotal role on one of the Indians playoff teams. So a proper send-off to you, a great major league career. I want to thank everybody for watching. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below. We will see you next week, same time, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. I don't know if I'm still here. Looks like I am. Oh boy. A little technical difficulty there. Well, I'll just run with it for a little bit. It's time to say goodbye again, I think. Am I right? Am I right? Or am I right? Or am I right? Little Ned Ryerson for you from Groundhog Day. You got a little extra movie quotes. So I'm just going to keep on going because actually once this shuts down, usually what I'm doing is continuing to look at the teams anyway. I got to trade for Jake McGee. Steven Matz. That's a great trade target. He's not going to keep this up, but he's going to be a good player. And let's see what else. Kendall Graveman. Can't believe I missed out on this guy. I'm looking for closers, and they were just floating around everywhere. So it does sound like you can hear me. So I'm just going to keep rolling with this. I'll roll with this for as long as you guys want me to. Don't leave. Don't leave. Oh, no, don't leave. Lance Lynn. That guy is just a mystery. I don't know how he ended up having a career renaissance. Now, Ross, why don't we talk about Clayton Kershaw? Since you want to trade him. I want to trade for him. Let's do it. You're in the chat. I'm right here. Let's make a trade right now. I agreed. Buxton is a beast, even though autocorrect changed it to Buxom. Buxom is a beast. So I want to trade for Clayton Kershaw. Let's talk, Ross. I want Kershaw. Let's think what we can do. You want Giolito, don't you? I'm not trading him straight up, though. You're going to have to give me a lot more than that because we are in a keeper league. So I am always ready to talk more sports. We got like an extended playlist here. Lance Lynn is an innings burner. It's really true. More power to him. Lou Trevino. No, we can't end on that. We cannot end on the Lou Trevino travesty. Let's see what else is going on. Who's this guy, Connor Brogdon? Oh, well, he has 3 wins in relief. That's why he's ranked up there. Wow, that was John Wayne Gacy came up on my screen. That was pretty terrifying. Kershaw for who? Oh, you know what? Kershaw for who? I don't know, Ross. We're going to explore it. I do want to say, though, I'm going to wrap up. I'm glad we didn't wrap up. Everything happens for a reason. The reason it didn't happen is I just want to talk a little bit about the George Floyd verdict, because as a nation, we're all watching, we're all thinking about these issues. I want to give a shout out to his family, and I'm not trying to get political with this. I'm just saying as a nation, we're really in all of this together, and it felt a little weird to not honor it, that's what's happening today. Lee Trevino. Don't pick up Lee Trevino. He was a I think he was a good golfer, if I'm remembering correctly. I can't quite remember. That's funny. When you have kids, you just start forgetting all kinds of things. I once knew all of this stuff. In any case, guys, thank you for watching. It's been a pleasure. They're saying don't leave. They're saying don't leave, but don't worry. I'll be back. Looking forward to seeing you soon here on MFSN.
As a reward for making Gilcliff the undisputed clean energy drink of America and beyond, we've packed in more B vitamins, electrolytes, and killer taste than ever. And as a bonus, we've made the ultimate loyalty program. It's not a cult, it's not a club, it's the Gilcliff Cult Club. Tap into special offers like flash sales and exclusive merch, deep discounts, and eternal awesomeness. Go to Gilcliff.com to get your